Ever since I showed Miss Pumpkin in one of the first videos I put out this month, everyone has been asking me, where's Mr. Moon? Where's Mr. Moon? Where's Mr. Moon? So let's go get Mr. Moon. Well, everyone, here's Mr. Moon. He blends in perfectly with my shirt, and honestly, he is a perfect precious angel, so I don't have any spooky facts about him, and that's because he's actually a scaredy cat. He doesn't want the internet to know he's a scaredy cat. Seriously, when people come over, he hides under the bed, he goes and hides for hours and hours and hours, and doesn't come out until everyone leaves from the house except for his mama and dada. So yeah, although he looks tough on the outside, he's a little baby angel on the inside. So yeah, no spooky fact, but you get a lovey-dovey fact. Seriously, he's such a fucking baby. How is he not the most perfect thing ever? How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the House of Horror, and welcome to my final top 10 of the Halloween season. I wanted to do something really fun and easy for the final top 10 of the year, so what naturally popped into my head was my top 10 favorite horror films. But obviously with lists like that, you need to do a ton of research and recollection of all the films that you've watched your entire life. But I did find a little loophole because I'm going to be talking about the top 10 films that I rated on Letterboxd. If you don't know about Letterboxd, it's an app that I use every single time that I watch a movie, where you just go on there, you can rate it, and just leave a little review about it. And yeah, it's just a really great app. As I said, I use it every single time I watch something. So basically, Letterboxd made my list for me. Now, the way I typically rate things on my Letterboxd is just the spur-of-the-moment thought that pops in my head. As soon as the credits stop rolling at the end, I give it an immediate rating. I don't put too much thought into it. It's just an instinctual reaction. Sometimes I'm a really harsh rater. Sometimes I rate things way too easily. But it's just all in good fun. And coincidentally, there are only 10 films that I rated 4.5 stars or above. So it was the perfect fit for this list right here. I've actually only rated 4 films a perfect 5 stars, with 6 coming in almost perfect at 4.5. So once I had my 10, I just had to put them in order. And the way I did that is I ranked the 4 films that are 5 stars, giving me my top 4, and likewise with the 6 4.5 star films making numbers 5 through 10 on the list. And obviously if I were to really sit down and make my actual top 10, it would be very, very different from this. But it was fun to just go on Letterboxd and look at my ratings of my initial reactions. So yeah, let's just take a look at my highest rated horror films on Letterboxd. And for number 10, I'm going to be going with Hereditary. So Hereditary, phenomenal film. I've talked about it on the show many, many times before. I think when I initially rated this on Letterboxd, I gave it a very low rating, but the more and more I thought about the film and actually rewatched it, it just got better and better and better in my mind. So yeah, it bumped it up to 4.5 stars, and it made it my number 10 favorite horror film, apparently. And coming up for number 9 is actually going to be Dracula from 1931 with Bela Lugosi. This is another one, just like every single film on this list I've talked about on the channel before to death, and I don't even think that this is necessarily a good film beginning to end, but Lugosi's performance really makes it. The first half of the story when we're at Dracula's castle is phenomenal, but the second half is really stilted and feels like a stage play. Again, just like Hereditary, if I were to make an actual top 10, I don't know if this would really be on there, but it does have that fantastic Lugosi performance, so I can justify it being on the list. So for my number 8, it's actually going to be Halloween 2. Another one I don't know would necessarily make my real top 10, but it's still a great film. I have it neck and neck with the original film, hint hint for later on in the list. But yeah, I talked about this film a lot. If you want to know more about this film, check out my top 10 Halloween films video. But yeah, Halloween 2, it's a ton of fun. I love how it takes place directly after the original, minutes after the original wraps up. And although it's not as good as the original, it's a great complimentary piece to the original. Coming in at number 7 is Trick or Treat. If you saw my video from last year, the top 10 modern horror classics, you know that I rated this number 1. But when it comes to all-time favorite horror films, I guess it's coming in at number 7. If you haven't seen it before, it's an anthology film, but it's not your typical anthology because all the stories are happening simultaneously. And yeah, I just love how it all comes together. I love the character Sam, who has become a modern horror icon. And yeah, I just love everything about this film. If I were to make a top 10 horror films list for real, this would probably be on it. Or I don't know, maybe not. It's really, really tough to do that kind of thing, especially when you've seen as many horror films as I have. But nonetheless, Trick or Treat is a really great film. Coming in at number 6 is actually Night of the Living Dead, another film that I've done a video about on the channel before, and I actually had the chance to go see it at the drive-in a few weeks ago. It's still a phenomenal film. I love it more every single time that I watch it, actually. And it's one of those films that I think today it's even more relevant than it was back then. Or just about the same. It's hard to say, I wasn't alive or anything. But yeah, it's more than just a regular zombie film. It's a great social commentary, it's a great zombie film, and it's one of the best horror films ever made. So yeah, it's well deserving of number 6 on my list. For number 5, we're talking talking about The Shining. Once again, I did a video about it, go watch it. But yeah, The Shining, there's nothing I can say about it that hasn't already been said. It's not a great adaptation of a Stephen King novel, but because it isn't a great adaptation of the novel, it's a great horror film. Of course, you have two camps, the people that like the book and the people that like the movie, but for me, the film is utterly phenomenal, and it has perhaps the greatest performance ever in a horror film. But yeah, I've talked about it enough on the shows before, so let's just move on to number 4. Now, here's where the list gets a little weird, because we're getting into the films that I rated 5 stars on Letterboxd, and for number 4, I actually have Eraserhead. Now, if I were making this list for real, Eraserhead would probably not be anywhere close to the list. And although I really love and appreciate Eraserhead, it's weird to put it in my top 10 horror films. But yeah, I rated it 5 stars on Letterboxd, so it has to go on this part of the list. But again, someday, if I do an actual comprehensive top 10 horror films video, this probably wouldn't be on it. But again, it's just interesting to see that this was on there. And for number 3, another 5-star classic is Psycho. Now, this one would probably be in my top 10, but maybe not necessarily this high. But since it has that 5-star rating, it's gotta be up close. Again, Psycho, I don't really know what I can say about it that hasn't been said on the internet a billion times. It's probably my favorite Hitchcock film, although it's really close with that and Vertigo, but it's unquestionable the mark Psycho left on cinema. Even if you haven't seen the film before, you've probably heard the music, you've seen the shower scene, and hell, you're probably even aware of the twist ending, even if you haven't seen the film. So it's unquestionable that it's one of the greatest films ever made. And apparently it's my 3rd favorite horror film. But for number 2 and number 1, there's gonna be no controversy here, because I think even if I did make an actual list, this would still be my top 2. And coming in for number 2 is Evil Dead 2. Talk about a film that blends horror and comedy seamlessly. For every joke in the film, it claps back with a huge scare and vice versa. It just keeps going and going and going. The film undoubtedly isn't for everyone, but for someone like me, it's perfect. It has some of the best and most inventive camera work ever in a horror film. It has a unique vision that we don't really see too often, except if you're talking about the other Evil Dead films. But yeah, man, the film is just a great time. I love it so much, and I think if this list was real or not, it would still be my number 2. But for number 1, unquestionably, my favorite horror film is Halloween. Again, I've talked about it a billion times before on the channel, but there is nothing about this film that I dislike. And I think we actually take for granted how good this film is. Everyone knows the score. Everyone knows Michael Myers. Everyone knows Jamie Lee Curtis as the Scream Queen. It's just a perfect film. I have nothing else to say about it. It is a perfect film. But yeah, man, it's my favorite horror film, and I really don't see that changing ever. It was a big defining portion of my life, and it's a film I still watch every single year on Halloween. And that's not gonna change either. If you haven't seen Halloween, I don't know what you're waiting for. You need to go see it. And what films out of my top 10 Letterboxd films have you guys seen before? Let me know down in the comment section below, and let me know which one is your favorite. And let me know if you guys want to see a real top 10 list of my horror films out there. Maybe next year I'm gonna really have to do some deep reflection and research and figure out what it's gonna be. But until then, you're getting my Letterboxd list. And if you guys haven't already, please make sure you subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications so you know when I post new videos. And if you were to give this video a thumbs up and share it with a friend, it would be greatly appreciated. I will see you guys back here tomorrow for another episode from the House of Horror. The month is almost over, guys, so as always, take care and stay spooky.